He's the man who penned the love songs that brought all of America to a standstill. Mandy, Copacabana. Even now, each lyric feels drawn straight from the hearts of millions of music lovers. From a skinny boy clutching an accordion in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, Barry Manilow rose to become a top-tier star, selling over 85 million records, owning a $1 million villa in Palm Springs, and commanding a fee of more than $1 million per night in Las Vegas. Yet for decades, he carried a secret he dared not share about his love life, his true self, and the fear of his audience turning against him. What kept him silent for nearly 40 years, and why, when he finally revealed the truth, did the world rise to its feet in applause behind the stage lights? Who is Barry Manilow really? The story that follows may make you see him in a completely different light. Barry Allen Pincus was born on June 17, 1943 in Williamsburg, a working-class neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, as the only son in a Jewish-Irish family. Barry was raised by his single mother and his maternal grandfather after his father walked out when he was very young. They lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment where the roar of the elevated subway trains outside and bitter winter nights without sufficient heat were all too familiar. From a young age, Barry showed a special passion for music. His grandfather, Joseph Manilow, was the first to recognize his talent and always encouraged him to pursue it. Although the family couldn't afford the piano Barry longed for, he persisted in practicing on a second-hand accordion that his grandfather had bought at a flea market. Music became his refuge, the place where the skinny boy found his voice amid teasing and discrimination at school. Barry attended Eastern District High School, where classmates often teased him for his small stature and unusual surname. Even teachers doubted his dream. One instructor bluntly told him that music was not a viable path for a kid from a neighborhood like his. Rather than giving up, Barry threw himself into practice all the more. In the evenings, when his mother was patching clothes for extra income, he would sit quietly by the window, letting his melodies blend with the Brooklyn wind. At the age of 16, Barry made a silent promise that one day his music would fill the biggest stages. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to keep a vow to himself that a dream is something no one can take away, not even circumstances. And so, from that tiny apartment on a Brooklyn corner, Barry Manilow's musical journey began quietly, humbly, but with a fire that would never go out. From those nights spent writing jingles for toothpaste and soda, Barry Manilow stepped onto a brightly lit stage with Mandy, the love song that brought all of America to its knees. But before he was hailed as a legend, he endured dozens of rejections and rainy nights on the cheap rooftops of Manhattan from that shabby apartment. Barry would rise to a $1 million villa and a net worth of more than $100 million, but the road to get there was anything but easy. By day, Barry studied at the New York College of Music. By night, he worked at CBS Studios, then returned home to compose under the flickering light of his desk lamp. The dream of becoming an artist survived in every note he wrote. Despite repeated failed auditions, one producer even looked him in the eye after hearing his demo and said, "Nobody listens to that kind of music anymore." Could gentle music still find its place in a noisy world? Putting aside his dream of taking the stage, Barry wrote advertising music to get by, but in 1971, a surprise opportunity arrived when he became a pianist and musical director for Bette Midler. Barry followed her to bars and small theaters, where he learned how to command a stage not through showmanship, but through genuine emotion. And then the moment came when Barry himself emerged into the spotlight. In 1974, Barry released the single Mandy, a tender, heartfelt ballad that seemed unlikely to stand out in an era dominated by rock and disco, yet within weeks, Mandy shot to #1 on the Billboard chart, opening a whole new chapter from a jingle writer. Barry became a global icon with over 85 million records sold-out shows, and one platinum album after another. One moment he was writing jingles for toothpaste, the next, he was earning performance contracts worth more than $1 million per night in Las Vegas. Within just a few years, the name Barry Manilow exceeded all expectations. The voice once criticized as too soft now filled every major stage, from Vegas to London, in terms of revenue from tours and albums alone. He quickly surpassed $100 million, a staggering figure for a boy who once only dreamed of affording a piano. But with the lights shining so brightly, could anything possibly make him stop? From songs scribbled in a cramped apartment, Barry Manilow stepped into a world where each note was worth millions of dollars. But amid grand villas, vintage Rolls-Royces, and dazzling Las Vegas stages, he still kept his morning ritual of steeping tea and playing piano alone as if he had never left Brooklyn. Behind the bright lights, Barry's life unfolds like a ballad, elegant, unhurried, and deeply reflective. If the stage lights were where Barry Manilow shone brightest, then the rooftops were where he allowed himself to remain quiet. Palm Springs' land of arid skies, gentle breezes, and unpretentious sun was his refuge after every show. There, he owned a villa valued at $25 million, nestled among palm trees and cacti like a peaceful oasis. From the outside, the house appeared to float in nature, floor-to-ceiling glass walls reflecting the San Jacinto Mountains, a minimalist flat roof, and a mirror-like pool capturing the sunset's glow. But step through the tall mahogany door, and the interior evokes something more personal. Cool sandstone floors, light streaming over ebony bookshelves, and at the center a Steinway grand piano that never wore a cover. Each dawn, before the house fully awakened, Barry would sit there and play unnamed chords, not to compose, not to practice, but to listen to himself after the applause, after the cheers. Perhaps every artist needs a place like that where music need not be perfect, only true. There were no guards at that house, no grand gate, no ornate reception hall. But tucked behind a low hedge was a private tennis court, where Barry once hit balls each afternoon with Gary Keefe, his life partner and music manager. Not for exercise, but for the quiet company they shared. On the other side of California, Barry also kept a seaside home in Malibu, where he often retreated after Las Vegas residencies. Unlike Palm Springs' arid clarity, Malibu was softer, more humid, and resonant with memories of youth. The house was not large, but every detail felt refined, weathered, whitewashed wood walls, classic shuttered windows, and a long wooden hallway opening directly onto the ocean. Barry's favorite spot was a wicker chair by the floor-to-ceiling windows, with a small table always holding a cup of tea and a stack of handwritten music. Some nights, he would forgo sleep, simply listening to waves crash against the shore and marking up chords in pencil as carefully as if he were penning a letter to his past. There were songs Barry never recorded, yet their notes still echoed there, in that house, year after year. Though the Malibu home was listed at $13,700,000 when he put it on the market, its true worth did not lie on the for sale sign. It lay in the unheard songs, in the set of simple white porcelain dishes he bought with his first jingle fee, and in the black and white photograph hung in the corner capturing a 30-year-old Barry smiling at his instrument. With no stage lights and no audience. People may build castles, but only an artist turns a house into a vessel for time. Those homes were where Barry lived, but to traverse a musical journey spanning decades, he also needed companions made of steel and wheels. Barry Manilow never viewed cars as status symbols. To him, each vehicle was a slice of life, a means to enter a new chapter and sometimes to return to himself. The silver-painted Rolls-Royce Phantom VI was a gift Barry gave himself after a sold-out London tour in 1978. At the time, it cost $350,000, and today, it is a rare model sought by vintage car collectors. What made that car special was its silence. No roar, no rush. It carried him to important places with a calmness much like Barry's stage presence, unhurried, assured, and never ostentatious. That Rolls once took him to the Royal Albert Hall, Carnegie Hall, and even private benefit concerts in Beverly Hills. Throughout those years, he often sat in the back seat, eyes closed, listening to a freshly mixed recording just to experience it as an audience member. Opposite it was a silver Porsche 356 Speedster, a classic estimated at $500,000 on the collector car market. Compact, sleek. It evoked the 60s golden era. Barry loved this car not for speed, but because it inspired self-possession, light, elegant and layered. On gentle Palm Springs mornings, he would drive it alone, no music playing, no passenger beside him, just the wind, smooth curves, and the engine's hum as part of an unfinished musical arrangement. Finally, there was a 1993 Land Rover Range Rover, painted dusky olive, currently worth about $40,000, but to Barry, it was his most precious vehicle, not flashy, not rare, yet steadfast and loyal. This was the one he drove into the desert whenever he needed to step away from the world. No paparazzi, no phones, no one knowing where he was. Just him, a music notebook, and a sunset slicing through Red Rock Mountains. Strangely, the least valuable car was where he felt most alive. In that garage, each car had a reason to remain, not for collection, not to impress, but because they recalled different periods, different moods, and moments that Barry could never capture in words. Barry Manilow could earn more than $1 million each night in Las Vegas. He once stood on America's most luxurious stages, collecting countless awards, hailed as one of the voices that defined music in the 70s and 80s. Yet after every performance, he would return to his cup of tea, an armchair by the window, and a sheet of handwritten music. Barry's life was never confined by luxury. He preferred waking before dawn, brewing a pot of Earl Grey, and reading a printed newspaper rather than scrolling on a phone. Every Monday morning, he spent an hour writing new melodies by hand, not for a contract, not for an audience, but because it was how he stayed connected to himself. In a world of entertainment that spins faster each day, he chose to live slowly, just as each of his ballads made people pause and listen. Barry always used the simple white porcelain dishes he purchased with that first jingle fee. No pattern, no brand. Yet he cherished them more than his Grammy Awards. As he once told a friend, "They remind me of the real value of success, not what you own, but what you treasure." His dinners were usually modest: a small plate of pasta, a bit of red wine, and jazz softly playing in the room. Some evenings, he would say nothing, just sit at his old piano, play a few chords, then quietly go to bed, as if living within the melodies he once wrote, gentle, profound, needing no crescendo. For Barry, music was where he could live authentically, and life was how he continued composing wordless songs. In an industry where everything is exposed, Barry Manilow remains one of the most private figures. For decades, he avoided personal questions not out of fear, but because he believed that music should be mentioned first. But behind the closed door of his Palm Springs villa, there was always someone quietly by his side: Gary Keefe, his manager, life partner, and companion for more than 40 years. They met in the early 80s, when Gary came to work backstage at a concert in California. There was no lightning bolt romance, no sweeping love ballads, just two people finding each other amidst the noise of the entertainment world. They lived quietly, no scandals, no tabloids. Everyone who met them said they were like a couple who had been together for decades, understanding every habit without needing explanations. Barry would play a brief ballad whenever Gary entered a room, a simple yet deeply thoughtful gesture. Gary handled everything behind the scenes, from tour schedules to finances, so Barry could fully immerse himself in music. Perhaps that is why Barry once said, "I don't need to seek inspiration, I live with it every day." In 2014, they married in secret, and by 2017, at age 73, Barry publicly came out as gay in a brief interview for only one reason: "I didn't want people to think I was alone." He feared that truth might drive away loyal fans, especially older ones, but the opposite happened. People loved him more, for his honesty, for his courage, and because he lived just like the songs he wrote, authentic and unafraid of being vulnerable. When you sing about love all your life, there comes a time when you must let the world know this is how you lived it. Today, even though his performance schedule remains busy, Barry always makes an effort to return home in time for dinner, not out of habit, but because of the man waiting for him at the table. No glitz, no fanfare, just a real life quiet enough to hear the heart beating, and long enough to be called a home. Though he sang of love with all his heart, Barry Manilow kept the greatest secret of his life for nearly 4 decades. Though adored around the world, he endured ridicule, lawsuits, and the fear of losing the very fans he cherished. Even a legend must face moments that could destroy everything. So what did Barry do? In 1993, a judge in Colorado Springs sued Barry Manilow because the concert volume was too loud and caused the judge to suffer prolonged tinnitus. The lawsuit seemed absurd but dominated headlines for weeks. Barry did not fight back. He did not hire a high-profile attorney to counterattack. Instead, he quietly apologized and donated $5,000 to the local ear, nose, and throat hospital, an effort both gracious and dignified. He did not choose to confront with power. He chose to respond with kindness, and that was the Barry Manilow way. A year later, he found himself in another legal battle, this time against KBIG Radio in Los Angeles. The station had used one of Barry's melodies in an advertising campaign, mocking him outright with the slogan, "Listen to something else." Barry filed suit seeking $28 million, not for money, but for his honor. In the end, the matter was settled out of court, and the station had to withdraw every offending advertisement. Though he was known as a ballad singer, he understood when he needed to speak up to protect his values in his private life. Barry faced rumors of romance for many years, among them a rumor of an engagement to adult film actress Robin Bird in the late 1980s. When asked about it on a television program, he simply smiled and said, "If I love someone, I don't need anyone's permission." The audience laughed. But behind that smile lay a fear only someone living it could know, fear of being misunderstood and fear of losing everything he had worked so hard to build. For more than 40 years, Barry kept his relationship with Gary Keefe private, not out of shame, but because, as he once said, "I know people love me for my music. I don't want anything to change that." Then, in 2017, at age 73, Barry publicly came out as gay and revealed that he had been married since 2014. That moment was not shocking. It was moving because he had chosen the right time to live honestly. His fans did not turn away. On the contrary, thousands of letters and messages poured in from across America, many from older fans who wrote, "Barry, your music has been with me my whole life. Now I'll stand by you." What is a true legacy is at 85 million records sold, immortal love songs, or the way someone quietly touches the hearts of the entire world without an introduction. For Barry Manilow, legacy does not lie in numbers. It lies in the silent things he leaves behind in his music, in people's hearts, and in what he gives away without anyone knowing. When Hurricane Katrina ravaged the United States in 2005, Barry did not launch a major campaign or call for large-scale donations. He simply sent $150,000 in cash, and then matched by adding 3 times the amount his fans contributed through his own fund. No announcements, no cameras, just action. In 2011, when Joplin, Missouri lay in ruins after another storm, Barry not only donated $300,000 to music programs in schools, he also personally shipped each box of instruments directly to teachers. For him, music was not just a profession, but the one thing that could help a child believe in the future, even when the present was nothing but rubble. A legacy is not what you place in someone else's wallet. It is what you leave in their hearts. In music, Barry's legacy was shaped long ago. Songs like Mandy, Copacabana, Even Now, and I Write the Songs are not just hits, they are vivid moments of a generation, the soundtrack to first loves, late-night drives, and even the quiet tears. Today, though he is past 80, Barry continues to perform regularly at Westgate, Las Vegas, breaking the previous record for longest-running live concert engagement held by Elvis Presley himself. But he does more than stand and sing. He listens to the applause, sees the audience's eyes, and knows that his music still lives on. At an age when many have already retired, he still takes the stage not to be praised, but to express gratitude. At the end of the show, Barry often sings I Write the Songs, but on the final line, he always pauses a beat, as if inviting the audience to sing along. I write the songs that make the young girls cry. At that moment, he smiles. Not out of pride, but because he knows he has done the hardest thing in this glamorous world. He has kept his heart intact. Barry Manilow's journey from the accordion-playing boy in a small Brooklyn apartment to a Las Vegas stage icon is more than a success story. It is proof that no matter where you come from, as long as you never stop believing in music, in kindness, and in doing what is right, you can leave something truly lasting. Have you ever lived for something no one believed in except yourself? Share that journey And don't forget to subscribe so we can listen to more inspiring stories together.